All right, everybody, we are live again. This is my third live video. Thank you so much for those of you who showed up. Baby. Oh, here it is. Almost forgot my Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to y'all. So today's question was actually sent all the way from India. Her name is Simi. And even though she wasn't super specific about what she wanted me to talk about, she said to please explain 7th grade geometry. Okay, so what I'm going to be doing today is I am going to choose to talk about the circle because I know that this is probably the part of geometry that most of my students have trouble with. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. And Simi, I really hope this helps you out. And if there is anything else, whether it's angles or other shapes that you want me to do a video about, please email me, isabelexplains@gmail.com, and I'll be more than happy to make a video for you. All right. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to talk about the parts of the circle, okay? We normally, when we talk about shapes, we talk about the length and width and height and all that kind of stuff. But when we're talking about a circle, we don't have that, right? We don't have length and height, right? We have different terms for it because the circle is a little bit different. So what we actually have is we have 3 main things that are specific to a circle. There are the radius, the diameter, and the circumference, okay? So in this example, what I'm going to do is first I'm going to show you what the radius is, okay? So every time you are given a circle, more often than not, if not always, you will be given the center of the circle. And this is what you're going to use as your point of reference for pretty much anything you do within the circle, okay? So the radius is always going to go from the center to that edge of the circle that we call the circumference. All this area right here, or I shouldn't say area because that means something different in math, but all of this section right here, this black edge that forms the circle, that is called the circumference. All right. So if I draw a line from the center to the edge or to the circumference, that is called the radius. And we normally just abbreviate it as R. Okay, so I'm just going to call it in parentheses R. I hope that is visible. Is that visible? Okay, great. So this is going to be the radius. Now, the radius is not just going to be specifically in that direction, right? The radius is actually literally any line that you draw from the center to the circumference. Okay, that's why this is the center of the circle. It is equidistant, or it has the same distance from the center to any position on the circumference. Okay, so the diameter is the second thing that we're going to talk about. The diameter is actually going to be twice the circle. Twice the radius. And the reason being is because the diameter actually goes from one side of the circumference and one point of the circumference to the other side of the circumference, but it has to pass through the center. Okay, so it has to pass through the center and it needs to be a flat, straight line. Okay, that would be the diameter of the circle. So this whole thing is the diameter, which we call D. And sometimes we can express that as equal to 2 times R because it's literally 2 times the radius, right? It's twice as large as the radius. Now, the other thing that we're going to be talking about is pi, right? Pi is introduced actually in this section when we talk about circles, and we're like, where did this pi come from? And we have formulas with pi and all that kind of stuff. Well, I'm going to tell you. So I mentioned this is the diameter, half of it is the radius, and this entire thing is the circumference, okay? If you had a cord, right, or if you had a little string that was the length of this diameter, if you were to put that cord around the circle, all right, like if you were to actually cover the circle with that diameter, with that string, it would be 3.14 times or 3.14 pieces of diameter that you would need to complete the full circumference. And that is where the formula for circumference comes from. We know that the formula for circumference is 2 pi r, right? So it's 2 pi r. And the reason is because, actually, I'm going to erase that. I'm going to backtrack a little bit. So the reason is because if I have the diameter and I multiply that by 3.14, which is pi, right? So if I have the diameter and I multiply that times pi, I'm going to get the circumference of the circle. Okay, so that's why we know that the circumference is going to be d, or the diameter, times pi. But we also know that the diameter is 2r, right? And we have a little system of equations going on here. And if you don't know what a system of equations is, you should check out one of my videos. I already did that. So we know that d is 2r. So this becomes 2r pi. And that is the circumference. Now, we know that pi, we abbreviated as 3.14, but it is not. And I actually encourage you to do a search on Google of what is the actual value of pi, and it's infinite. It keeps going and going and going and going. And there's thousands of digits of pi that have been discovered after the point, right? But obviously, to keep it simple, especially at this stage of the game, we're just going to round it up to 3.14. Okay, so we know that 2r times pi, or 2 pi r, it doesn't really matter because it's multiplication, right? So when you multiply 2 times pi times r, is the same thing as 2 times r times pi, or whatever, it doesn't really matter. And that is going to be the circumference. Now, I'm not going to get into the details of how to find the area or where that formula came from, but just know that we're actually using the exact same digits that we use here. We just kind of rearrange them a little bit, and that actually helps me memorize or remember what the area of a circle is. The area of a circle, we express it as pi r squared, okay? And a really good way to remember is two things that I use. First, I know that it's the same thing as 2. We have a 2 here, we have an r, and we have a pi. We have a pi, right? So we know that we use the same 3, but how do you know which one is which? Well, when you're doing an area of anything, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a square or a rectangle or triangle or a circle, it doesn't matter. The units for that are always going to be squared, okay? So it doesn't matter what the shape is, the area, the units for the area are always going to be squared. So that's how I remember that the r has to be squared on the area and not on the circumference. I really hope this was helpful. I wanted to give a super fun fact, quick note of where, when, and who discovered pi. It was actually this guy called Archimedes of Syracuse, and he actually discovered or made the first calculations of pi about 300 years before Jesus was born. So pi has been around for a long time. We keep discovering digits of pi because of technology and all that kind of stuff. And I think it's really fascinating. I love that. But yeah, that's my fun fact for today. I hope you guys have a great holiday. I hope this video was helpful. If you have any questions, or if you want me to make another about it or talk in depth a little bit more about it, please let me know. Have a safe holidays, and I'll see you guys next year. Bye.